few days ago, I was speaking with a young Muslim man and he asked me a series of questions. Questions which, if Christians do not believe to be true, then there's really no point in being a Christian. Jesus didn't die to save you from your sins. Now, I think this is quite clear in the Old Testament, and I want to give you a couple of examples to help you understand how to see this concept of atonement, innocent atoning for the guilty in the Old Testament, to ultimately shore up your faith, but also at the same time helping you understand how to engage with people who challenge your faith on a day-to-day basis. Hi and welcome to the channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Israel. I do videos just like this, helping you learn the Bible and also living it out every day in the right way. This is quite clear for me as early as the first pages in Genesis. Why? Because we see, thinking about this concept of Christ coming and atoning for us, mankind, the guilty party. What do we see in the first example in the Bible of men and women committing sin? It's a popular scenario that most people know, even if you're not Christian. It's of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden committing sin. Now, the reason this is quite pivotal and showcases the Christian doctrine right from the get-go is because you have to be thinking right from the get-go of Jesus and his coming mission all the way from the beginning of the Bible. If you do this, everything else becomes relatively clear. Now, what did God say to Adam and Eve? God said to Adam, don't eat from this particular fruit of this particular tree, because in the day in which you're eating it, you're going to die. Now, what actually happened? We obviously know Adam and Eve ultimately ate that particular fruit and they didn't die physically right there and then. Now, there's a couple of reasons why that didn't happen. I've done a particular video on that. I'll leave that linked in the description box if you want to consider watching that further. But the point I don't make in that video, which I want to bring up now, is really and truly something did die, but it wasn't Adam and Eve in the end. Why? Because instead of killing physically Adam and Eve right there and then, God basically took an innocent animal and killed that particular animal in place of Adam and Eve. We know this quite clearly because Adam and Eve basically sewed fig leaves to basically cover their nakedness, to cover their shame, to cover their sin. That was their act of works to basically save themselves, to cover themselves from their sin. But what did God do? The Bible talks about in Genesis that God basically made coats of skin, right? He slaughtered an animal and then clothed Adam and Eve. This is an example in the very first example of sin in the Bible, of God basically taking righteous blood, right, killing an animal, and using that as a way to cover man's sin. This isn't a Christian invention. This is us clearly looking at text and seeing quite clearly that God killed an animal, clothed Adam and Eve with that animal, and that was a way in which they were ultimately able to continue going on. But they didn't die because God ultimately put something in their place to die, which was ultimately righteous. Another example which is really popular is in the second book in the Bible, in Exodus, right? This is when the Lord is basically going to judge the Egyptians one final time with one final plague. And God basically says to Moses, tell all of the Israelites, tell everyone, look, I want you to basically kill an animal, and I want you to take the blood of the animal, and I want you to put it on the top and on the sides, which, funny enough, symbolizes and showcases a sort of cross, right? And God says, anybody whose house I pass over that has this blood on the door will basically be saved. Anybody whose house does not have this blood on the door will not be saved and will suffer one final plague. And that is ultimately what happened. What saved those people in that particular scenario? It was the blood, which was the marker on the top and on the side posts, which saved these people in Egypt. Now, what about an Egyptian who basically put that blood on the top and the sides? They would be protected. What about a Jewish person, an Israelite, who didn't put the blood on the top and on the side posts? They would not be protected. You see, this is another example early on in the Bible of God using blood as an insight, as a token of salvation. This gets even better in the next book in the Bible, in Leviticus, because the most famous day in the whole of the Israelite calendar, right, the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur, what do we see? God told the high priest to act as an intercessor for the whole of the nation, and on one particular day, all sins were forgiven, right? Now, what's actually quite powerful about this particular scenario in and of itself is you read about in Leviticus what we call the scapegoat. The sins of the people were placed on an animal, and the animal was basically led out of the city. What is that a symbolization of? Sins being taken from one particular group, guilty people, and placed on an innocent party, and that innocent party bears the sins of the guilty. You see, when you think about the Old Testament and you read it through the lens of Christ coming to be the ultimate sacrifice, it all makes sense. Now, we obviously believe that as Christians, these passages in the Old Testament are just foreshadows. They're setting the way. They're the forerunner for the ultimate sacrifice that would come and did come in the first century 2,000 years ago, and took all of the sins of all of mankind and provided salvation for anyone who ultimately would accept him. Now, this is culminated in the Old Testament in passages like Isaiah 53. Even if you read before Isaiah 53, we hear of someone who would come and would bear all of the sins of the guilty parties, and his righteous sacrifice would cover the sins of many. This is a Christian making this video, right? I'm making this video for Christians, and many can accuse us of looking at what we're just reading into the text, what we want to see. Yes, I've given you examples quite clearly, just contextually when we read them, where we can see clearly that blood atonement was shown all the way throughout the Old Testament in different ways. There are examples in Jewish sources, which are not Christian sources, which basically agree with the points I'm basically making. They obviously don't apply this to Jesus Christ, but they do apply these same concepts. So it's not something which a Christian invented to basically try and get out of doing good deeds in order to be saved. There's examples like a popular person from the Bible, Isaac, how Isaac being offered as a sacrifice, right, was a sign of the righteous basically atoning for the guilty. This is why I stopped at Isaiah 53, because there's multiple Jewish sources that all talk about the Messiah coming and bearing the sins of many, him atoning, his righteous death atoning for many guilty parties. There's even things in like the Jewish Talmud which Jews accept, right, and hold to, where it talks about people like Miriam in the Old Testament. Her death was a sign of atonement, righteous atonement for guilty parties, right? Even there's other Jewish literature which talks about how the death of the high priest in the city of refuge was also a sign of atonement for guilty parties who were guilty of manslaughter. The reason I went through these passages and then ultimately started talking about Jewish sources is because I want you to realize that the Old Testament, which was not written by Christians, and Jewish sources which are clearly against Christians' beliefs, both line up with the same thing. Now let's say, for example, the Bible didn't teach this in the Old Testament, and there were no Jewish sources corroborating these views of the Messiah coming and taking the sins of many and taking all of our diseases. Yes, the Muslim would be right and Christianity would be pointless. But the fact of the matter is we have so much evidence corroborating our beliefs that we know what we believe in is ultimately true. Now, Jesus dying on the cross and atoning for our sins is something which people like Muslims do bring up as a big point. But an even bigger point made by Muslims and other groups sometimes is that God would obviously appear in the flesh. Watch this video right here. It's a great video for you to watch, showcasing clear passages that God would ultimately come and appear as a man and then ultimately be the savior of mankind.